All right, we're at Peter Pan, chapter 11, The Kidnapping. Tink darted up the nearest tree, but no one followed her, because at this very moment the pirates launched their horrible attack against the Indians. The stillness of the night was broken by screams and the clash of steel. In the house underground, Wendy and the boys looked at Peter, wondering what he would do. Without saying a word, he grabbed his sword. The Indians could have assembled a fighting force if they had moved quickly, but their tribal rules stated that it was not permitted to display surprise in the presence of enemies. Thus, when the pirates suddenly appeared, the Indians remained still for a moment too long before they picked up their weapons. The Indians fought valiantly and took many pirates down to the death with them. But sadly, the final outcome was a complete massacre of the Indians. And still, the work of the pirates was not done. Destroying the Indians was only the first part of their task. The main goal was to kill Peter Pan and his band, but especially Peter himself. It is hard to imagine that a big, strong man like Hook was so obsessed with a small boy. Peter, of course, had fed Hook's arm to the crocodiles, but Hook was bothered even more by Peter's personality. The boy was such a show-off. Hook couldn't wait to strike him down forever. But how were the pirates to get down through the trees to the underground house? Down below, Peter's family remained silent. They stared at each other with frightening expressions. They knew from the stillness above that the battle was over. But how could they find out who had won? If the Indians have won, Peter said at last, they will beat the tom-tom. But that is always their sign of victory. The pirates listening to the conversation below grinned wickedly. Hook motioned to Smee to beat the tom-tom. After 2 beats, he heard Peter cry joyfully, "The tom-tom! The Indians are victorious!" The children, not realizing what doom awaited them, let out a mighty cheer, after which they repeated their goodbyes to Peter. Their farewells puzzled the pirates, but were soon forgotten as they waited eagerly for their enemy to come up the trees. Hook ordered 1 man to each tree and told the remaining members of the band to stand by. First to emerge was Curly, who fell into the waiting arms of the pirate Siko, and was passed like a bale of hay from one man to another until he fell at the feet of Hook himself. All the boys were plucked from their trees in the same manner. Wendy came last and received a different treatment. Hook, an unlikely gentleman, tipped his hat to her, offered her his arm, and escorted her to the spot where the others were being gagged. She was too surprised to cry out after all. Wendy was just a little girl. The pirates tied up the children with ropes to prevent them from flying away. They doubled them up with their knees close to their ears. The poor boys looked like turkeys about to be put in the oven for roasting. Everything went according to Hook's plan until Slightly's turn came. The pirates wrapped the rope around him, but there wasn't a long enough piece of rope left to tie a knot. 3 times they tried. When they poked around his body to find the cause of the problem, they found surprised and delighted Hook. Slightly drank huge amounts of water, which caused him to swell far beyond the size of the other boys. Instead of reducing his weight so that he could fit into the passageway of his tree, he had increased the size of the passageway to accommodate his body. He had never told the other boys about this, but now Hook knew a secret. The wicked pirate would soon use this priceless information to descend into the underground house and try to kill Peter. Hook ordered his men to carry the children to the pirate ship. He also thought up a clever way to transport them. The children were tossed into Wendy's little house, which was borne on the shoulders of the pirates. Hook stayed behind on the island. When night fell, the evil Captain Hook tiptoed into Slightly's tree. He slipped out of his black cloak and stepped into the hole that Slightly had whittled in the trunk. Then, struggling to overcome his fear of the unknown, he let himself slide down the passageway. He landed safely at the bottom and looked around with great curiosity. It didn't take long to find Peter. The boy was fast asleep on the huge bed. A feeling of rage came over Hook. He lurched towards the sleeping boy, but tripped over the door of Slightly's tree. It didn't completely fill the opening, and he had been looking over it toward Peter. Hook reached for the latch, but it was too low for him to reach. Was Peter to escape Hook's fury after all? Suddenly, the captain caught sight of Peter's medicine standing on a ledge within easy reach. The pirate always carried a poisonous drug that he could swallow if an enemy ever captured him alive. He added 5 drops of this dreadful yellow liquid to the medicine in Peter's cup. Then, throwing a final glance at the sleeping boy, he stole up the tree and emerged into the night. He donned his cloak and hat and walked rapidly through the woods. End of chapter 11. Love you guys.